and welcome everybody to this week's Market Share, the short weekly segment brought to you by MKR, where we bring you all the noteworthy news and updates surrounding digital media and the world today. I'm your host Genevieve, and we've got some interesting topics to cover today, so let's get started. First up, let's talk about Facebook and the loss in daily active users they reported early last week. Meta recently posted its Q4 2021 and full year performance results, and honestly, the information shared probably won't shock you. Although there was an increase in just plain active users, the slowest quarter-on-quarter growth rate in history, daily active user number declined for the first time ever. This means 1 million people decided they no longer needed to check Facebook daily, even though they added users in many regions. Usage has been stagnant in North America for a while, meaning that everyone who would have a Facebook page already does. But now this trend is spreading to other markets, which is not ideal for the platform's growth. The worst part is that Facebook saw a decline over the Christmas period, which is usually when you would expect people to be more active online. Now it makes even more sense why Facebook's name change to Meta prompted a swift shift in the focus to the metaverse, where they could be the leaders in the metaverse before the metaverse is actually, real. Just like our good friends NFTs, it will take Meta years to put everything together to maximize the value of this new form of digital connection, especially with the legal troubles we've all gone way too deep into. All in all, your business will eventually need to make the decision of whether you leave Facebook as daily active users decline, or whether you invest in a possible future that you can't even fathom. Your choice. Next up, let's discuss Google's topics and the adjustments we as marketers will have to make. We all know the third-party cookie was known and loved by advertisers in the past, but while the rest of the digital environment and consumer behavior shifts, user tracking must shift with it. Google just unveiled Topics, the new model to replace third-party cookie ad targeting and allow users to have more control over their privacy. Instead of targeting individual users based on their interests and behaviors, Topics proposes doing this with groups instead. Advertisers will have to adapt as Topics collects data on users' interests over a rolling 3-week period, assigning interests to one of 300 topics. Topics will then assign advertisers 3 possible topics when they want to reach users, each of which will be a high-interest topic for 1 week of browsing data during that 3-week period. So what does this mean for the future, you ask? As digital advertising tries to get away from tracking every single tiny piece of your life, Google's Topics has been the clearest signal that gathering egregious amounts of third-party data on each person will be coming to an end. Advertisers will have to invite more first-party data into the fold and invest more in targeting that matches ads to the content of people's digital experiences rather than their behavior or demographics. If you can take one thing away from this discussion, remember that if you want to continue to know everything about everyone, you'll have to make a strong case to the public as to why they should value data collection and how much easier it makes their lives. Third up today, Twitter is bringing back the downvotes conversation despite years and years of testing and deciding not to add the feature. Twitter is now expanding the testing of downvotes as they believe it will give more insight into user behavior. They've learned loads about what types of replies people find relevant and irrelevant, and downvotes, aka dislikes in most people's eyes, could be the way to get even more information on what users find valuable. First off, Twitter, you are not Reddit. Let's just remember this. Second of all, if you think Twitter can be a hateful place, just wait until we see the anger that can be unleashed with downvotes. In theory, downvotes are the easiest way for people to acknowledge that they don't agree with the content, find it offensive, or just straight up don't want to see it. Although many people would definitely utilize this feature, it can also be seen from the viewpoint of increased censorship, where people are just choosing not to see a dissenting opinion, not the healthiest reaction ever. Even though this feature is currently only testing on replies, they could apply their overall learnings to all tweets. So marketers, get ready for even more community monitoring as we get into the sea of downvotes. Finally, let's end on the topic of TikTok and brands' maybe not so smart choices to get involved in every TikTok trend. If you mindlessly scroll on TikTok, like even more people do day after day, you probably know the West Elm Caleb trend, and you've probably seen brands make unnecessary additions. After West Elm Caleb started trending last week, Brands such as Rug Bowl, Hellmann's, and the card game Uno hopped on the train, regardless of whether it was at all applicable to their messaging. Many marketers suggest that you do not hop onto trends just to be included, especially if the drama is happening between normal non-celebrities, and even more so if you don't have both sides of the story. So if a colleague you know suggests you join the crowd on this new cool trend, I highly suggest you take a step back, reassess your brand, take a look at your messaging, and make the right decision for you, especially if your target isn't even on TikTok. That's all for this week's Market Share. My name's Genevieve, and I'll see you all next week. Sorry, what? Do you see how it says meat? What? Meat? Q1 2020, no, that was wrong. Anger can be in... Yeah, we're gonna have to go back on that one. That's my bad.